So if I ask you the question, where does Peter live? Just like these people during the live stream, they know it's in Capernaum. But do you know where Capernaum is and how you can even locate it on a map? This is my favorite thing to do on a live stream, by the way, pulling up the map of Israel. Let's talk about this. So here's Israel over here, obviously. We've got some amazing stuff. We talk about this all the time, and I'll say it again. Israel is right here. Obviously, this is modern day Israel, but obviously the geography is still the same as when Jesus walked the earth. So this bottom body of water that's in Israel is called the Dead Sea. It's a huge body of water that has the highest salt content, and it's the lowest point on land, basically, on the earth. Now, the northern body of water that's up here, I'll probably put this more center. The northern body of water that's up here is called the Sea of Galilee. This is one of the main regions in which Jesus did ministry. So if you think about this, zoom out again, we've got Africa up here, we've got Asia over here, Europe obviously up here. If we zoom in, we've got Lebanon to the north, Syria to the northeast, Jordan to the east, and Egypt to the southwest. But if we zoom in back to Israel, we have the Mediterranean Sea to the west. And if we zoom in to the Galilee area, right, the Sea of Galilee area, we can see that there are some different things kind of going on. Now, it's not shown on a modern map because it no longer exists. But over here in this section is actually Bethsaida, okay? So if we make a triangle from Capernaum to Chorazim to Bethsaida, this is basically the main region in which Jesus did the majority of his ministry, okay? So if we look at this area, we've got Magdala over here, called Migdal today. Then we also have Capernaum right here on the north point of the Sea of Galilee. So the Sea of Galilee is right here. The northern point right here is Capernaum, okay? So this is where Peter lived. Now we're going to talk about a few different things about Capernaum, okay? First of all, we're going to start with something called the Via Maris, okay? Now I want you to write that down, think about that, okay? The Via Maris, the Via Maris is a trade route, okay? So if you look at this purple line that goes from Heliopolis all the way up here to Damascus, this is a trade route that runs from Egypt through Israel and right through Capernaum. Now, this is going to look real grainy, but if we zoom in here, we can actually see this little dot above Hazor is the Sea of Galilee. And that trade route goes right through Capernaum. Why is this important? Well, it's important because it gives us an understanding of what Capernaum actually was. Capernaum was a pretty bustling city. It's a fishing village just like Magdala, but it had a trade route that went basically directly through it. So there was a lot of different movement and people and things that were happening at Capernaum specifically. That's why it made such a great base of operations for Jesus to work out of, okay? So Peter lives here in Capernaum. And we know this obviously from scripture, but also we have archaeological evidence that goes through Capernaum as well. Now, only a piece of Capernaum is actually uncovered today. Most of Capernaum is still buried under the ground, and they haven't excavated it. But there is a section of Capernaum that we're going to talk about today. First of all, let me show you some pictures from our previous trip to Israel in February, okay? So you're going to see it spelled a little bit differently here. You see Capharnaum is the place, the town of Jesus. And this comes from, I believe, actually Nahum, because they believe that Nahum lived in this area. So Capharnaum is a form, or like it's an iteration somehow of Nahum living here. At least I think that's what it is. If I'm wrong about that, please let me know in the comments below. I always love it when I'm wrong. But this is Capernaum, the town of Jesus that we know. So this is the sign that you see when you first go in. Hey, real quick, I want to let you guys know we had a few open spots for our Israel trip of 2024. So if you were looking to join that trip, but you thought it was full, we'd love for you to join us on our 2024 trip. We've got about 3 spots that just opened up because a family had to drop out. Check out the links down below, and you can sign up for that anytime before October 24th. Then when you start looking around the ruins, you can actually see this area here. Now, all of these different areas, these different rooms are different houses, right? So different rooms within different houses, they were all around the area. and you can see kind of streets going through and different houses and different things. We'll talk about this big building over here in a second, which is obviously not an ancient building. We'll talk about that in just a second. But also in Capernaum, where you can go today, you can see I believe this is a 2nd or 3rd century synagogue. So it was after Jesus was here, and maybe later than that, actually. I'm not 100% sure. It's an ancient synagogue, but it's not at the time of Jesus. There is a synagogue, however, that is beneath this one, which would have been the synagogue that Jesus actually taught in, worshiped in, and went to every single week when he lived in Capernaum with Peter. So let me give you a little bit better of an aerial view of what the city of Capernaum looked like when they first started excavating it and people first started going there. So this is what it looked like. So this over here is that synagogue I was just telling you about. So this is when they first excavated it and before they started seeing all the pieces that kind of build it up into what it is now. You can see the walls that are there, the walls that are here. It's not as put together as it is today, as they've kind of reconstructed some bits of it. But over here is that city that we were just looking into with all that black rock. And so you can see all the different rooms and houses and different things. Now, this structure up here looks a little bit different, right? This is something that is different than what we see everywhere else. It's kind of an octagonal shape. It doesn't look like any of the other houses that we're kind of seeing all over here. So what is this? Well, many people believe that this is actually the house of Peter. Here's a closer look at this object. We see sort of this center section, and then we see another wall and then another wall. So it's kind of these walls that keep on going out and out and out. And let me explain exactly what we're seeing here. So many people believe that this is Peter's home. Why do they believe that? Well, there's a couple different reasons. But first, let me tell you about the house itself. Here is one of my pictures from Israel in February, right here, where we actually see how the inner portion of the house is kind of put together. And remember, this obviously isn't a finished building anymore. It used to be a finished building, and actually parts of this building actually had plaster on them to finish them very nicely. So many people believe that originally this was a normal house that Peter actually lived in with his family, possibly his mother-in-law as well, right? Depends on what would have been going on there. However, eventually what happened after Peter either died or left the area, or after the death of Christ, this actually stopped being a house and was started to be used as a church, as a place to meet, to worship. So this is like really, really, really cool. They know this because when they started excavating this building, on the walls of all of these different areas, there's actually graffiti everywhere. So like writings on the walls everywhere on this. And a lot of them said, "Christ have mercy on me," or different things that have to do with Jesus specifically. I don't want to misquote them, so I can't remember them exactly right now. But there's very specific things that had to do with Jesus specifically on the walls, including some images of crosses in this building. Now, on top of that, they think this is Peter's house because, one, they know that Peter lived in this area, but also Peter's name is actually on a lot of these different graffiti pieces as well, showing us that this is most likely Peter's home in Capernaum that was turned into a church. So why does it look the way that it does? If we go back to this other picture, we can see all these concentric sort of octagonal shapes that go out and out and out and out, right? Now, this is because they kept on running out of room, essentially. And so they made the building bigger and bigger and bigger. And so it's so cool to see this early piece of church history as they're beginning to meet after Jesus is resurrected, that they're meeting in a place where Peter lived and his house becomes a church, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, one of the really interesting things about this building today is that it no longer looks like it does there. In fact, let me open this. It actually has a church built on top of it. So following in the footsteps of Peter and the early apostles and the early churchgoers, right? They built a church on top of this same location. So if we zoom in here, you can see an octagonal shaped church, that is now on top of Peter's house, protecting it from the elements And on the bottom of it is a glass floor so that you can see Peter's house. Really, really cool stuff, right? There's just so much really cool evidence here. Just amazing, amazing moments. So again, Capernaum is an important city. Why? Because it was the base of operations for Jesus. Not only the base of operations for Jesus, but many of his disciples are actually from Capernaum, including James and John, including Peter and Andrew. And then, of course, we see a lot of these other people that are connected to it. A lot of people, I think Philip may be from Capernaum as well, if I'm remembering correctly, but I can't remember off the top of my head. So all of them are kind of connected here. It's really, really, really cool. And the fact that we've uncovered a lot of this evidence is just, it's amazing. It's mind-blowing to me. The house of Peter, super, super, super cool. Capernaum, amazing fishing village next to the Via Maris. So we know that everything is kind of connected here as a bustling hub that moves Jesus' ministry and allows him to spread the word as he continues his ministry and does all these different things. I don't know. What do you guys think about this? This is the kind of stuff that I get excited about. I want to talk about. I love Capernaum. I love that area. If you ever get a chance to go to Capernaum, which obviously you can go through our Israel trips if you'd like, it's just amazing to see how everything was built and how everything was kind of uncovered. And you see this big city that's here that Jesus actually lived in, right? Like Peter's house is not just Peter's house. It's also the house that Jesus most likely stayed, right? So that's why it's called the town of Jesus, because most likely Jesus stayed here. Most likely Jesus lived in that house. I don't know. It's really, really cool. I love that stuff. If you like this small portion of our live stream, you can check out the whole entire live stream over on our Patreon at patreon.com/thesnipelife. This is by far the best way to help support us and to keep us doing amazing things in the future of these videos. There's a lot of stuff we have planned, so I want you to be a part of it. All right, we'll see you on the next one. Peace.